Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are listening from, whether it is deep in the heart of the continent, across the oceans, or under the stillness of dawn, lend me your ears. Because what unfolded last night in Burkina Faso was not just an incident. It was not just an attempted attack. It was an earthquake aimed directly at the heart of Africa's awakening. And if you think this is just another story, let me tell you right now. This was a strike designed to end the future. Because their target was not a building, not a system, not a random victim. Their target was Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young lion the enemy fears more than bullets, more than sanctions, more than their collapsing empires. Last night, the capital of Burkina Faso stood on the edge of destruction. While most of the city slept, while the lights flickered across the silent streets of Wagadugu, a massive plot was already moving through the red zones. Foreign-backed agents of destruction were preparing the most catastrophic assault the country has faced since the struggle for freedom began. Let me take you into that night. It was around 2 a.m. The air was still, the highways quiet. Only the unseen guardians of the nation, the Customs Security Patrol units, were awake, patrolling the critical zones where danger hides itself in the dark. 2 officers, brave sons of the soil, were sweeping the perimeter when they saw it. A gray saloon car, creeping through the zone with a slowness that smelled of wicked intentions. The car belonged to no civilian, no traveler, no worker. It belonged to one thing only: terror. The moment the officers approached, the suspects inside knew they had been discovered. The vehicle bolted into the dusty bush roads. Instantly, the chase began. What followed was 35 minutes of fire, steel, dust, and roaring engines. This was not just a pursuit. This was a battle between 2 futures, one struggling to survive, the other determined to destroy. The officers refused to let the vehicle escape. They maneuvered, pushed, and finally slammed into the back of the car, crushing it. The suspects were cornered. The alarm was raised across the sector. Backup arrived. 2 suspects were arrested and taken to a secured medical facility due to injuries from the crash. But what the officers uncovered next was something so massive, so apocalyptic, that it shook the entire command structure awake. Hidden across the capital, silent, deadly, waiting, were 100 barrels of a highly explosive substance. Not 10, not 20, 100. This was not a plot to scare people. This was a plan to annihilate the capital, to set the city ablaze from multiple directions, to plunge millions into bloody chaos, and to use that panic as a smokescreen for a coup. Their final objective? Eliminate Captain Ibrahim Traoré. The explosives had entered the country disguised as cooking oil. The agents believed they had fooled the customs officers. They believed their deception was perfect, but they failed to understand one thing. The defenders of Burkina Faso are no longer sleeping. Let us speak the truth without hiding behind soft words. Captain Traoré is a marked man. He is the shepherd who led his people out of the jaws of the colonial wolves. He is the one who cut the chains they spent decades tightening. He is the architect of a new alliance the dying powers cannot control. And because they fear what he represents. Because they know that if he succeeds, Africa rises with him. They have made him target number 1. Since he took power, there have been more than 40 attempts to remove him by force, poison, chaos, or bullets. 40 attempts, and yet he stands. 40 attempts, and yet the fire in him only grows stronger. 40 attempts, and yet the people rally around him more fiercely each day. But this attempt was different. This was not a simple attack. This was an operation designed to obliterate the capital, cause uncontrollable firestorms, create mass panic, and crush Traoré under the collapsing walls of his own nation. Yet again, the enemy miscalculated. The customs commander immediately stepped forward. He addressed the public with boldness, transparency, and precision. No silence, no hesitation, no secretive cover-ups. He told the nation the truth, and by doing so, he shattered the enemy's first weapon confusion. The enemy needed the people to fear each other. They needed smoke rumors, panic, silence. Instead, they got clarity, unity, and a nation standing behind their leader. Across the capital, the response was immediate and unstoppable. The army mobilized. The intelligence units expanded their net. Special forces swept through every sector. One by one, barrel after barrel was found and secured. Every barrel discovered was a blow to the enemy's plans. Every recovery was a humiliation for those orchestrating the coup. Every success was proof that the guardians of the revolution are awake. The capital moved into an iron lockdown. Every road checked. Every vehicle questioned. Every suspicious movement recorded. The hunt for the remaining agents intensified. Meanwhile, the captured suspects began speaking under the weight of African justice. They revealed the positions of the remaining barrels. They revealed their contact points. They revealed their safe houses. They revealed the money trail. And that is where the true story begins. Because the money trail does not lie. The money trail leads not to the deserts, not to the forests, not to the villages, but to foreign capitals whose fingerprints stain every destabilization in the Sahel. These were not lone wolves. These were tools. Low-level pawns sent by collapsing powers desperate to regain control of a region slipping out of their hands. They have tried everything: sanctions, propaganda, diplomatic pressure, economic sabotage, terror funding, coup attempts, assassination attempts, covert operations, smuggling networks, and now, open attempts at mass destruction. But despite all their plans, they still do not understand one unstoppable truth. The people are behind Traoré. They have seen his sincerity. They have seen his sacrifices. They have seen his courage. They have seen the storms he has endured. And they know deep in their bones that he is not the author of chaos. They know who benefits from chaos. They know who fears African unity. They know who bleeds when Africa rises. And they know who grows weaker every day. Traoré remains in power. The enemy has now shifted to a darker plan. Since they cannot overthrow him with explosives, since they cannot assassinate him in the shadows, since they cannot break the army that stands with him, they have begun a war of suffocation, a war to starve the economy, a war to poison the markets, a war to block fuel shipments, a war to create shortages of food and essential goods, a war to create fear, exhaustion, frustration, a war to break the people, not the government. Because they believe a hungry people will turn against their leader. They believe a tired nation will abandon the fight. They believe suffering will push the citizens to beg for a return to the old chains, the old dependency, the old masters. They will say, Traoré brought this. Traoré caused this. Traoré made life difficult. Choose a leader who obeys us, and we will give you peace. Peace built on slavery. Peace built on submission. Peace built on colonial obedience. But Burkina Faso is not blind. Burkina Faso is not weak. Burkina Faso is not a nation of fools. The people see the wicked hand behind the chaos. They see the desperation of the powers losing control. They see the attacks for what they truly are, not random violence, but a war to stop the coming second independence. And they will not bow. Local committees are rising in every province. The army stands ready for a long defensive war. Fuel routes are being diversified. Food distribution is being reorganized to bypass hostile systems. The Triple Alliance stands firm with Burkina Faso. Counterintelligence units, local and foreign, are severing the arteries of terror funding. This is no longer a battle for one nation. This is a battle for the entire Sahel, for the entire continent, for a future where African children grow without the shadow of foreign domination. The enemy's attempt last night failed. Their agents are captured, their explosives neutralized, their money trail exposed, their shame laid bare, their plans burning in the open sunlight. Captain Ibrahim Traoré remains alive. He remains protected. He remains the symbol they cannot erase. He remains the fire they cannot extinguish. He remains the voice they cannot silence. This is not the end. This is only the beginning of a long season of storms. But storms create warriors. Storms forge unity. Storms expose truth. And this truth stands unshaken. Africa is awakening. The Sahel is rising. And no collapsing empire can stop the march of a people determined to be free. Stand strong. Stand united. Stand vigilant. Stand with those who defend your future. The fight for the second independence is alive, and the hands of destiny are already writing the next chapter.